encouraged that at least the polling and public opinion suggests that the issue that started with his call to the Ukrainian president has broken through in a way that many of his other actions have not, in terms of the threat that they pose to our democracy and to our Constitution. I was on the impeachment staff that investigated Richard Nixon back in 1974, and it was an incredibly solemn and serious deliberative effort, as it must be, because basically the founders decided that elections had to be held and people had to be judged at the ballot box, but there could be office holders who, in between elections, were engaged in such behavior that was damaging to the system of government through abuse of power, through obstruction of justice, through contempt of Congress, that impeachment was this rare but necessary remedy. So I supported Speaker Pelosi when she finally decided that he could not walk away from the evidence that was provided first by a whistleblower, but then confirmed by the White House itself about what Trump had been trying to extort from the Ukrainian president. Now, think about this, because when you have a president calling on foreign adversaries for assistance in his political campaigns, which he did in 2016, and which he is doing again, that goes right to the heart of our sovereignty as a nation, to our national security, in a way that is almost unimaginable. I cannot imagine any other president ever even thinking about this. So here we are, and the evidence only becomes more compelling about what he and his close associates, including the Secretary of State, were up to in trying to maneuver this new young president of Ukraine into doing his political work. And then, of course, yesterday, the president said that he wished China would also investigate the Bidens. Now, I joked about that some months ago on Rachel Maddow. I said, you know, in the 2016 election, Trump basically said, Russia, if you're listening, you will be richly rewarded if you can find Hillary Clinton's emails. And it was all out in the open. And of course, we know the Russians hacked the DNC, hacked my campaign, etc. So now it's also in the open. We'd like to help defend your country against Russian aggressiveness, but first we have a favor to ask of you, which is please go after Joe Biden and his son. There's another side show to this, which is help us try to undermine the Mueller report and all of the evidence from our intelligence agencies that the Russians interfered in the election. Because, you know, Trump knows he's an illegitimate president who got illegitimate... We know what he did in Ukraine, and it was so alarming that it wasn't just the whistleblower. Remember this, the whistleblower did come forward, but clearly people in the room listening to Trump's end of the conversation, or maybe listening to the conversation, which often happens in the White House because you want to have a good record and figure out, you know, what the president said and what the other leader said. People listening were so alarmed that they immediately hid the transcript of the call from anyone who has any reason to be working on behalf of Ukraine in the Defense Department or the State Department or any of our intel agencies. And they put it, they tried to hide it in a server that is supposed to hold only the most highly classified secrets of our country. So we know that the Ukraine investigation is proceeding, and the very first witness, a distinguished ambassador, Ambassador Volker, provided a lot of evidence that at the moment, in contemporaneous time, diplomats, like Ambassador Bill Taylor were saying, you know, it's crazy to be basically withholding military aid to get help on your political campaign. Now, it is crazy unless you're also doing Vladimir Putin's bidding. So there's another dimension to this that is potentially going to be uncovered. So then he asked China, well, look, we have several adversaries, about 4, that are highly adept at cyber warfare. Russia, obviously, China, if they were so inclined, North Korea, and Iran. So what happened today? Microsoft reports that Iran is attacking at least one democratic campaign. All bets are off. If foreign governments think they can tilt the playing field, as they did against me, which was a deliberate, well-planned effort laid out in indictments against Russian military actors and their allies, well, you know, the Republicans seem to think that, okay, so far Russia's playing on the red team, and, you know, so we like it. We're not going to stand up against it. Well, who's to say that next week they're going to be playing on the blue team? It's crazy, my friends. So impeachment is the appropriate remedy, and it is such a serious assault on our democracy that is apparently asked for, aided, and abetted by not only the president but his allies, who seem not to either care or understand how deeply dangerous this is, that I am all in favor of what the House is doing and gathering the evidence and making the case, because this president has to be held to account because of his unconstitutional abuse of power, his contempt of Congress, and his obstruction of justice. What we write about her in the book, but go back and read what she said as a first-term member of Congress sitting on the Judiciary Committee during the Nixon impeachment as to why she wanted to not only defend the Constitution, but make very clear that if the Constitution in the remedy of impeachment did not cover the behavior that was being presented to the committee, then what did it mean? And go back, you can also go, you know, you can Google her, you can watch her, you can listen to it, and you can watch her make one of the most powerful speeches in the 20th century.
Okay, so we're getting toward